Hey my friends, welcome back to a new video. Today we'll be talking a little bit about how the rest of the year 2024 will be supported energetically. So we are in very interesting times, as you know, and for those of you who are a bit more aware what's going on, you may notice that there's a pattern that started around May 2019 when the planet Uranus went into the zodiac sign of Taurus. And it's often a significant shift that happens when this astrological event takes place, because it signifies a major transformation when it comes to systems, when it comes to patterns, and when it comes to evolution, like a breakdown of old systems so new ones can emerge. So this is a very powerful transition, and if you reflect a little bit on when you've been around May 2019, you may notice that during that time your life started shifting a lot. My life started shifting a lot back at that time. And what's interesting, soon after that there was COVID, right? COVID. And when that happened, well, everything started transitioning. And right now we are in a very, very interesting year, because the year 2024 is the year of breaking the patterns, the year of great disruption. But as disruption is a sign of change, or actually an initiation into a change, each individual needs to become very, very conscious around what's been disturbed. So we can notice in any area that was disturbed, there is a higher calling. But only those who are very perceptive, and by perceptive I mean they take time to observe what's kind of being disturbed and what's not in alignment with you anymore, what's not coming out of your authenticity anymore. You're being initiated into a higher path, a higher timeline that's opening up for you, that is introducing you to more authenticity, to more truth, to more abundance, to more of anything that will lead you to more purposeful and meaningful life, whatever is the most aligned with you. So we are just after the summer solstice on the northern hemisphere and winter solstice on the eastern hemisphere, which means that we're just on the half of the year. And the first half of the year was a phase of initiation. A phase of initiation, which means that if you reflect on the beginning of this year, you may notice that certain things started falling apart in your life. And whatever started falling apart started showing you, kind of showing a finger onto what's not in alignment with you anymore. For some people, those were big relationships, maybe even business relationships. For some people, it was a business, or maybe a company or a job. And for other people, it was something more personal, like health or certain routines, something they've been attached to, started kind of, being shaken a little bit, or a certain system, like maybe certain, strategies that worked until then, and suddenly it all stopped working. The reason for that was that, before the year 2024, many things worked if we hustled, if we had right strategies and all of that. But in 2024, something very interesting started happening, and it was like your soul would say, okay, until now you kinda knew what you're doing, but now I'm telling you, you had no idea what were you doing before. Because there is a difference when you do something by will and when you do something out of alignment. There's a big difference. And there's nothing wrong, when we have strategies and all of that. But those things they're not supported anymore. So in 2024, many things that were made out of strategies, out of certain systems, are just not working anymore, because what's supported now is alignment. And alignment is now, around May in 2024 till July, somewhere in the middle of July, there is a trial of tests where we're being faced with opportunities, how much we are able to align ourselves and how much we're still functioning by will. And I want to explain shortly this difference between will and alignment, or maybe better said, something you do by force and something you do by inspiration. Maybe that's the best articulation of this process. So when you do something by force, it's like you decide you will do it, and then it doesn't matter how you feel, doesn't matter what's happening around you, you do it, which is very necessary. It's a very pragmatic approach, but it's also a very stoic approach, which is important. We need to build this kind of a discipline and determination, and that's what the previous years were teaching us. So it's important to have rooted discipline and kinda perseverance and persistence within our character. It's important to have these qualities. But as much as they were serving us, and they're still serving us, now we are teaching the art of alignment, which is more like work through inspiration. So where it can show up and how it can manifest during this time. Let's say if the beginning of this year, somewhere from January till in the middle of May, we've been all initiated into this art of alignment, which means that many old systems, old strategies, old approaches started or stopped working. It may even happen on social media, like I've experienced that, like the way I was making content back in the past that worked, this year stopped working, and for some time I was trying different methods, and then I've noticed, well, I will experiment a little bit more. So of course, when we feel disturbed by something that worked in the past, we are being initiated into more experimentation. We just don't adapt immediately because we don't work like that. We like to attach to something that brings us a sense of security and a sense of familiarity, like this is known, this is what works, right? But when these things are disturbed, then we need to experiment a little bit. That's what I've been doing this year, and I've noticed, well, what brought the most success and the most positive feedback, or at least the most constructive feedback, was when I was the most, when I was doing things out of inspiration, like paintings I've done really inspired, really aligned, got the best feedback, and we've sold the most prints from them. When I create a painting that I was really inspired by it, and I do it really fast, like with a great flow, it's just, sold immediately. So I've started noticing what's happening when we work out of alignment and inspiration. Things happen very, very fast, and we get rewards for alignment very, very fast. So the universe rewards acts of alignment, acts of inspiration. But when we work against that, when we still try certain old methods that don't work anymore, we experience a sense of dissatisfaction, or even we feel kind of a sense of betrayal. We betray our authenticity, and therefore we sense disappointment. And in this sense, disappointment can be a sign you're out of alignment. You're doing something against your authenticity, and therefore you can notice where you've fallen off this grace, being authentic, being in flow. So we can notice what to change. And it's not a bad thing if this is happening. It's a trial and error. This is the year of trial and error until we build more stability, and we build a lifestyle that becomes sustainable. Because when you're authentic, you are in a state that's not draining you, that's not exhausting you. You're like What you give, know that it comes from your heart, so it's kind of feeding you. As much as you're giving, it's also feeding you. But it also feeds others, even though sometimes it may disturb their paradigms and perceptions, but it will awaken them eventually. Like, the truth will set them free, right? So the whole year 2024 is a year of trial and error, right? Trial and error. And many of you may just notice that that's happening in your life. And if you're looking for stability, well, you will find the most stability in trust that your authenticity is the greatest art you can kinda, get yourself in. Like, let's become authentic in the way I communicate with others, the way I express myself. Like, every single day, ask yourself in the morning, what could be the greatest possible expression I could embody today? What would be the expression of love today? And where I'm betraying my authenticity, what I start doing when I feel like I'm betraying my authenticity. And then also start noticing the feedback, what happens when you're being authentic. And what is the percentage of yourself that's still trying to control the outcomes and trying to control the circumstances in your life, and work on that. This is the time to work on that. So as I mentioned, since around May, somewhere in the middle of May this year to July, we're in this phase where we are really learning to align ourselves. And what is alignment? Well, alignment means that you catch an idea and you respond to it with action. This is alignment. Think about ideas as like voices of your soul. So everything that resonates with you is thinking in the soul. It's thoughts present in the soul. Those are not egoistic thoughts. Like, ego would say, oh, I want to do this so I will feel safe, so I will be seen as someone, so I will be appreciated, so I will be accepted, so I will be looking cool, and so on. But soul has this kind of ideas that inspire you, that make you feel to be more playful, to kind of explore possibilities. This is soul thinking. So whatever brings you this higher energy of enthusiasm, of inspiration, of happiness, whatever ideas, those are soulful ideas. That's why we call them soulful thoughts or soulful ideas or soulful projects. When we start doing something that resonates with us. And this is the phase right now where we're learning to align ourselves more with these soulful ideas and act upon them. So many times people think that surrendering means that you become like passive. You stop doing whatever. You just stop doing and you become, you surrender everything. But I've noticed the surrendering and doing with will, with persistence or perseverance, is very similar. When you surrender, you still take action. You still do things very similarly. But the difference is timing. If I give you an example, like I'm doing daily videos, and I've noticed, well, in the past, I was doing it on timing, like every single morning I make a video. At this time I've started, that's it. And sometimes I feel inspired, sometimes I haven't felt so inspired. But then I've started exploring this alignment and surrendering a little bit. So I've stopped forcing myself, like today I need to do this or today I need to do that. And I've started noticing, well, sometimes I don't feel inspired at certain hours, so I don't do creative work at that hour and I do something else. And then sometime in the afternoon, inspiration hits me and I do something creatively then. So I've noticed, well, I still do things very similarly, but timing is different. So I've started really dancing so much more with timings, like when is the timing for something, when is the timing to rest, when is the timing to work, when is the timing to express myself, when is the timing to help someone, and so on. And I've started noticing that everything aligns so much more beautifully, and I just feel to be so much more supported when this is happening. And that's where we are right now, in a phase where we're learning and teaching ourselves to align. So one most powerful prayer for this time is to pray for clarity and direction. Pray for clarity and direction, or meditate for clarity and direction. Sometimes when I don't know what to do, I just sit down and I place my attention between my ears. This is just what I do. I find a space in my head between my ears, and I just hold my attention then there and I meditate. And then whatever thoughts come up, I just observe them. I don't attach to them, I observe them. But then here and there I start noticing certain thoughts come up as to-do things. And I always have a block, or a journaling block, or a piece of paper beside me, so I write them down. Because I've noticed those are certain suppressed ideas that I had in the past and I've forgotten about them, and they start coming up. And more of these ideas come up, I write them all down, and then I start noticing when I write them down, my mind starts kinda emptying, and I still stay present on this spot. And then at some point I just know what matters, what is important, what we need to do, right? So the whole message here is that in order to become who you truly can be, you need to unbecome who you've been told that you should be. So it's not so much about becoming someone to manifest something. It's rather unbecoming everything you've been told, and you will manifest everything that will support your path. And to manifest everything that will support your path means that at this point, most probably you will not manifest what you want, but most definitely you will get everything you need so your purpose can be fulfilled. And once you're fulfilling your purpose, then on that process you will manifest everything you want to bring some pleasure to your life, to bring some joy and abundance and everything. Just so you play with all of that, but you stay focused on purpose. And then towards the end of the year, like somewhere between from the middle of July to the end of, or to beginning of December, we will be in the phase where we'll be exploring more this idea of purpose. So you will be led more into the idea of what brings a sense of purpose to you. Or even if you're already doing something that's very purposeful to you, you will start to feel more clear about where it is taking you. And you will start to notice, and connections will start happening in your life. You will start to understand so much more potentials of what can happen if you continue doing this. Or also certain things you could stop doing so you would save more time and effort and energy for other things that will open up for you, that will bring you a greater sense of purpose. So this is something very big, very important, very powerful. But what's important to know in that phase is to don't try to skip any process. Whatever traumas you've been through, whatever misunderstandings you have, whatever fear that's holding you back, you need to overcome it. You need to heal it. Especially fear, because many times when we feel something intuitively, if we don't find a difference between something not resonating with us and us being afraid of doing it, if we don't find a difference between these two aspects, then we may mistakenly think that when we're afraid of doing something that would change our lives for not resonating with this, it may make us feel stuck, right? So you need to find a difference between when something truly doesn't resonate with you and when you're actually just scared of doing it. Like example, Let's say you would like to start making content, which is maybe not even the best idea, but let's say you feel inspired to do something like that. You may notice that certain aspects of how you're doing it don't resonate with you, but it doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. You just need to find a way of expression that is really fulfilling and meaningful to you. It's a big difference from thinking, I want to do it, but I don't know how to do it, how I could express myself, so I need to explore it a little bit, or knowing this is just not for me. I will find another way. It's a big difference. And you need to really become aware of what your heart says. So we're still in a phase of our throat center. And from December on, we'll go into a phase of heart center. So what it means? It means that right now we are still learning about what being authentic truly means, where we lose authenticity. You may even feel it in your throat center every time you're not speaking your truth, or every time conversations become meaningless, you feel it in your throat center. You feel like getting dry, or you feel like you just don't want to talk about it. So authenticity in that sense may mean just stop leading conversations that are not maybe resonating with you anymore. If you've been doing that in the past to please someone, or to maybe, just to make someone important or whatever, and now it doesn't resonate anymore, try to navigate the conversation more the way that, that will be in alignment with you. You're exploring it. As I said, this is the phase where we are exploring all these things. And exploration is leading you to clarity. So don't say, oh, I haven't figured everything out. Like, we are all exploring right now. And you can see it also on YouTube. Like, so many people right now are exploring. And you can see it everywhere. People are exploring themselves. Like, you can see it, identity crisis and all kinds of weird things that are happening in the world, because people are exploring, not knowing who they are, and we're like finding it out, right? And towards the end of the year, all these things will become so much more clear, and you will be so much more confident in being your authentic self. But it takes courage. That's what most people don't understand, really, what it truly means to be, authentic. It takes courage to speak, to really express your voice, your needs, to find out what really resonates with you and do it, become it, right? It takes courage. It's not something that just happens through intuition and it's all beautiful. It takes courage to step out sometimes of something that brings you a sense of security and really persist on a project that just, satisfy your soul, but shaken your known perception of how things should be. It takes courage. So this is a very, it's a period where people are being tested. Are you bold enough? Are you courageous enough? Or will you follow the crowd that is following blind leaders or whatever, right? Not knowing where it may take you. When you follow your heart, you also don't know where it takes you, but your heart is driven by a higher order that's orchestrated by the source, and it requires you to trust and to test it out. To test it out, to see for yourself. Don't have blind faith. Actually test what happens if you do what resonates with you. Like in 2018, when I got this calling, I need to start painting, I've started painting, and it was very weird, but I just felt deeply I need to do it. And when I've started making those videos, it was very weird, but I've started doing that. And it takes you on a journey that everything just it's hard, it's tough many times, because still we need to face with our fears, but actually everything always works out, which is very interesting thing. So we can expect that from December on, you will be living so much more confidently in your heart. You will be still challenged a lot, but you will be so much more clear around what is your mission here, what is your purpose here. That's why the rest of this year will be very interesting, because you will be tested a lot, your courage will be tested a lot. And more you do things out of inspiration, out of alignment, more very interesting things will start happening to you. And life will just give you these glimpses of wonderful manifestations that will tell you you're supported, you're guided, and everything is working out. But at the same time, you will feel a strong sense of pressure, because your ego is still trying to control everything around you, trying to make sense of everything around you. So when you feel more exhausted and you get back into this ego self where you're trying to, make sense of everything, just relax. Relax and find your center. And always ask yourself, are you being clear about what's happening? Like, are you looking on it out of clarity? And is the path in front of you clear? And if the answer is no, then most probably you're trying to control something. You're doing it out of ego. Another thing that's very important in this process is to build powerful connections in your life. You're actually, to many of you, it will start happening that you will need to face with certain people with whom you have unresolved relationships. It will happen most probably to many of you. If not, it's most probably already happening, and you're like, why those people are coming back? Well, because you've been avoiding them. And whatever you've been avoiding, you will need to face with it. And well, this is the age of truth. You need to face with everything that's holding you back, with everything that triggers shame, triggers fear, triggers guilt, triggers resentment, triggers envy, triggers anger. You will need to deal with all of that. And while dealing with all of that, you will get deeper into acceptance. And acceptance is one of the highest frequencies that puts you into alignment. But it's not done through thinking like, oh, I accept this. You don't. If you say, I accept this, but you still feel a sense of resentment or whatever, you haven't accepted anything. As long as you really resolve it, nothing is really accepted. Only mentally. It doesn't change much. That's why certain manifestation practices are not very helpful if you're physically avoiding something. So therefore you're using them just to escape from what you actually need to deal with. So also in this time, you will need to deal with many of unpleasant things you've been avoiding until now. Courageously step into them and deal with them. It will be very uncomfortable, but it will only prepare you for the next level of your evolution. So if these things are happening to you, well, create a certain framework that will work for you. Like if you need to deal with certain people that are maybe very heavy for you, don't say those are toxic people, because it will only make things worse. But resolve it, whatever needs to be resolved, and have enough time to, to think through it, to process it, and maybe to work with it with a therapist or someone that can help you to make things more understandable if that's something you need. This is all very supported during this time, and you will thank yourself later for doing that. This is very unpleasant work, but you can't escape it anymore. Like everything right now that's not supported need to be resolved. Everything need to be resolved. Everything you think shouldn't happen but happened is because it needed to happen. So you can resolve it, let it go, and move on. But only life will show you what you really need to work on. What persists needs to be processed. And whatever that is, if certain people that you would describe as toxic or keep coming back into your life, it's because you have something with them, something in common. And you will need to process the understanding why it's happening. Talking with someone who can give you that will be very helpful. And again, you will thank yourself later for doing that, because otherwise you're just recycling all these things. So give yourself grace to do this work. And of course, many of you are already doing that, and for that I'm proud of you, because you're strengthening the collective web of this higher energy. You know, everyone who's doing that is plugged to this web of consciousness that's a bit more healed, and therefore a bit stronger, and therefore more in tune, and therefore will feel more supported because of that. So just understand that if certain things are repeating, or you feel certain things are not working anymore, because they're out of alignment with you. But as long as you don't resolve them, as long as you don't understand them, and as long as you don't figure out what would be a greater expression of yourself that would be much higher from this thing, then it will be keep repeating, only for you to learn how could you do it with maybe more love, more joy, more clarity, whatever the situation. It all comes back to honesty, being honest with yourself, to truth, voicing out the truth, which is very hard and very tough many times. And again, we need to have a sense of understanding for a fellow human being, like how to say something, so we don't do it out of arrogance, like I'm speaking my truth out of arrogance, and then everyone runs away, and then you're like, all those people are weird and crazy. Well, maybe you're doing it out of ego, like I'm speaking my truth, but actually you're in your ego trying to show how wise you are, whatever. Happens many times, right? And then these things repeat, so you learn to be more loving, more open, or whatever. So this is a very, very important phase, and you can't skip it. You can't escape it. You can only avoid it, but it will get worse. So make sure you take a lot of time to process everything that's happening right now, but to explore alignment, explore inspiration, whatever inspires you. And always find moments where you can recharge, where you can rest, where you can, as I said, process everything. And when you have free time, use it often to do nothing, because that's when your subconscious mind is actually processing things you don't need to think about. So at some point, clarity can just take place without you even knowing what you've done. So avoid mindless scrolling in your free times, and more often do just nothing. So then when you feel inspired, you can actually do something with it, right? I hope you found a great value in today's video, a bit longer one, but I felt inspired to talk about this, so a very important topic. And I'm sending you lots of love, blessings, and power. You need all of that right now. And thanks to everyone for joining our Patreon community for more exclusive content, and thanks to everyone for supporting my art in our store, AttractPassion.com, and Etsy store, I Draw My Passion, where you can find all of my art, paintings. I'm an artist, so go and check it out. Thank you so much for your support. With purchasing my art, you are supporting this mission so we can keep going, and for that I'm truly grateful to you. Till next time, my friends, one love.